Tonight, live from Huddersfield, it's a Trans-Tasman derby as the Kangaroos meet the Kiwis in Rugby League's World Cup semi-finals. The new-look Aussies whitewashed their rivals in the 1995 home series.
O'Davis now, Robbie O'Davis, he's away, the little bloke, he's in, Robbie O'Davis.
But on new terms and on neutral turf, the Black and Whites are backing themselves to bring off the upset of the series.
Tatupo sends Namu away. Namu's going to get run down, but he'll get it across.
The prize, a finals berth at Wembley. Australia versus New Zealand, tonight on Wide World of Sports.
Australia or New Zealand is only 80 minutes away from a berth in this year's Centenary Rugby League World Cup final. Yesterday, England was the first team through. A comfortable semi-final win for them over Wales, 25 points to 10. And as we welcome you to a windy McAlpine Stadium this afternoon in Huddersfield, the same opportunity applies for the Kiwis and the Aussies to take one step closer to Cup glory. The path to this second semi-final has looked this way for the teams. Australia won extra game in their pool, of course. Saw them finish second, courtesy of that first game loss to England, 20 points to 16. No troubles with South Africa or Fiji. While the New Zealanders undefeated in Pool 2, they defeated Tonga in a close one and then had no problems with Papua New Guinea. Australia coming to this game very strong favourites. New Zealand really did struggle in the Trans-Tasman series at home this year. That has the Aussies very confident. But Paul Vorton, on paper, the Kiwis as formidable as any team in this tournament. But we have to say it's been a long time since they've lived up to that potential.
I don't know if they've got some sort of problem, Pete, but they just haven't played well on the field. Even struggled in their 2 wins over here in their pool. As you look at the teams now, go to the back lines, of course, first. Tim Brasher, Rod Wishart, Mark Coyne-Hill, Brett Dallas wins the wing spot with some good performances in the earlier games. Brad Fittler, the captain, and Jeff Tuvey, the halfback. And for New Zealand, Ridge is their captain, and plenty of pace in this back line. Sean Hoppy and Richie Barnett on the wings. Kevin Iro gets a centre spot. He's now playing with the Leeds club over here. He joins Richie Blackmore. Tony Kemp has been playing lock forward. He gets the standoff spot, and Stacey Jones is the halfback. And 2 very strong forward packs as well. Jimmy Dimmick, Gary Larson, Steve Menzies, Mark Carroll. Andrew Johns is playing hooker with Dean playing in the front row. And for New Zealand, Mark Horrow, been in the wilderness the last couple of seasons, but he's got the lock forward position. Quentin Pongia, Stephen Carney, Jason Lowry, Henry Paul, normally a 5/8 or fullback. He is playing hooker, and John Lomax, the tough man up front from Canberra. And the bench is, of course, very important these days. Robbie O'Davis, Matthew Johns, he can play anywhere. He might get a start at hooker later. Jason Smith, Nick Kossoff, and Gene Namu, Okasini, Ruben Wiki. I can't believe he's not in the starting lineup, and Tony Iro. Pete, I can give you some information that Jeff Tuvey will actually be playing dummy half for Australia today, and Andrew Johns lining up in the halfback role.
It's very interesting. There's been a lot of talk about Henry Paul and Andrew Johns, 2 halfbacks playing in the hooker's role. I have no doubt they'll handle anywhere on the field. But like yourself, I'm very surprised that Ruben Wiki and Gene Namu couldn't make the starting lineup.
Especially Wiki for his strong defence. He can run the football, but defensively, I think he might have had something to say to both Coyne and Terry Hill out there. That's disappointing for Ruben Wiki supporters.
Well, it is crunch time for these 2 teams. A finals berth waiting for one of them in 80 minutes' time. We'll take a break now and be back with all the action of our second semi-final in this year's World Cup. Australia up against New Zealand.
Welcome back, Australia. Second semi-final day here at Huddersfield at the McAlpine Stadium. And it is quite a cold day. The breeze has whipped up considerably as the teams prepare to come out now to see which of them at the end of the day will go to Wembley next Saturday to contest the final of the 1995 World Cup against the home country, England. Matthew Ridge takes the New Zealand Kiwis out, and likewise does Brad Fittler. A good crowd in at McAlpine, but nothing like the 48,000 that were on hand at Eden Park back in 1988, when these 2 countries played the decider of the World Cup on a day that David Gillespie made his debut. So he's been around for quite some time. But a crowd probably in the area of 16,000 here at Huddersfield on day 2 of semi-final action from the tournament. It's Mark Horrow meeting the official party as they go through. And Chris Bombolis is down on the sidelines with the latest news as the players meet the official party.
Thank you, Ray. Down on the sideline, it is very chilly, I can tell you that. We're on the eastern side of the Pennines, decidedly colder than we were when we were at Old Trafford yesterday on the western side. The latest from both sides, Australia's had a trouble-free week. The only problem has been David Gillespie, that realistically he was never going to play with that hamstring strain. The Kiwis, though, they've had a bit of trouble in their camp. When the side was announced on Wednesday, Gary Freeman refused to train when he wasn't announced in the 17, and coach Frank Endicott has berated his side the whole week about their lack of discipline and, of course, their attitude. He wants to turn that around if they're going to have any success against Australia. It'll be interesting to see what they can do this afternoon.
Thank you, Chris. Hard to think that a side lacking in discipline, to use the coach's word, would get it back within the space of 3 or 4 days.
Yes, that's very good news for the Australians. The one thing that you must have coming up to big matches is a good preparation, concentrating, focused on the football side of things, and to have other problems come in and take your mind off it.
Ladies and gentlemen,
the way you play. But I know, just talking to Billy Moore before the game, he was saying that they are treating this New Zealand team with a lot of respect.
13 of the previous 14 World Cup meetings with New Zealand. Yes, 13 of the previous 14 meetings have resulted in Australian victories. Go back to 1985 to find the most recent New Zealand victory. So God defend New Zealand. And now to the Australian anthem. Good contingent of Australian supporters here at Huddersfield today as we look at the Australian team that will run on. Brasher, Wishart, Dallas, Coyne, Hill, Fittler, Tuvey, Dimmock, Menzies, Larson in the second row, Pay up to the front row, Andrew Johns to hooker. I'm led to believe he'll play at half-back in general play, and Tuvey will be the dummy half, and Carroll is the other prop. I suppose there is a question on who will do the goal kicking. I guess that Wishart will be the first up kicker. But Andrew has been kicking magnificently. There's New Zealand. Ridge, Hoppy, Barnett, Blackmore, Iro. First run-on international since 1993 for Kevin. Kemp, Jones, Horrow, Carney, Pongia, Lomax, Paul and Lowry. Lomax back from suspension today. The bench for Australia: O'Davis, Matthew Johns, Jason Smith, Nick Kosef. Hasn't that got some talent on it? And the New Zealand bench is Namu, Okasini, Ricky and Tony Iro.
The New Zealanders assembling for their haka as Brad Fittler comes up to the referee with Matthew Ridge.
Just on that goal-kicking question, Ray, I spoke to Bob Fulton before the match. He said that Andrew Johns would be the first-string kicker today in the semi-final.
And I'll just take this opportunity to send a happy birthday wish to a mate of mine in Queensland, Luke Collins. All the best. Have a good one.
Russell Smith is the referee. Let's hope he has a good one. He apparently is the frontline contender for next Saturday at Wembley. It's come down to he and Eddie Ward. Probably no need to tell you that this will be a crowd slanted in their applause towards New Zealand. I don't know that that would apply to the promoters, though. They would be aching for Australia versus England next Saturday. That will be a big crowd, 70-odd thousand. So the second semi-final. New Zealand then from right to left. And time goes on. Ridge it is that starts. And one of these sides will be on their way to the Twin Towers in 7 days from now. Carroll it is with the first touch for Australia, and Tuvey as expected at dummy half, and this is Larson. This is going to be a much different occasion for Gary Larson today than it was when he made that hurried or mercy dash from Australia to help out the Australian cause. He opened, of course, against the Fijians. New Zealand will be much more concentrated, much more determined, as Tuvey plays it now back for Jim Dimmock. And it is Kemp who goes through to try and put some pressure on the kickers. And Fittler eventually is the man that drives it down for Ridge, who comes outside the 10-metre line. Australians Hill and Menzies combined to put him down, and now Sean Hoppy is put to the ground by Pay and Carroll.
And Australia will look to a very simple game plan of controlling possession when they have it. A good kicking game. We just saw a fine kick from Brad Fittler there. Ridge took it on the fall. There's a good run there from Henry Paul. Will give him some confidence. Now Mark Horrow over halfway, another good 10 metres. That's the last.
Andrew Johns went close to giving a penalty there. Horrow wanted to get up and play it, and Johns forced him back down. Brasher loses his footing. Even that brings some applause from the crowd. And now Wishart came off the wing and he bumped away from Paul. So Tuvey dummies to a wide blind side, and Dimmock wrestling there with Kearney. Eventually got the pass away, Dimmock, as Jim Dimmock can. And Tuvey plays it on the halfway line for Coyne to give off and Pay to push it on for Carroll to take to ground under the weight of the tackle of the number 9 Henry Paul, and Tony Kemp playing at 5/8 today. Fittler now, who menaced New Zealand in 3 test matches during the year with that kicking game of his. The tackle count not nullified. It wasn't played at by the Kiwis. They go high, and Ridge is hit hard by Wishart coming down the ground. But Ridge, as tough as teak, is up and away.
A great piece of football there from Matthew Ridge. Absorbed the pressure, got smashed by Wishart, and then got up and made another 15, 20 metres.
As wiry as they come. Here's Matthew Ridge. The 8 is Lomax. Captained against France and captained against Australia in the first test this year before his injury, and of course today back from suspension. 15 of the 17 Kiwis played Winfield Cup this year. The youngest captain ever for them is with it now, Kearney. They go to the right for Kemp to put it on the right boot and keep it low. And here's young Brett Dallas now, getting his first touch of the ball and ridden into the ground by Another youngster on the wing, Richard Barnett from Cronulla, and he's been penalised for high.
There should be a good battle on the wings. Very quick men out there. Brett Dallas had a dream series against the New Zealanders, or a first test match for him. Scored the first 2 tries from memory. And the kicking game of Brad Fittler and Andrew Johns. Finds touch with a tremendous kick, 40 metres, 30 metres out, New Zealand line.
So Tuvey doing the work that you would think would fall upon the hooker or dummy half. Tuvey in that role. Andrew Johns at first receiver as Larson takes it to the centre of the ground. Tuvey now looks for Johns, and Johns had the option of giving it on for Dimmock, but Menzies tries to squeeze through a gap as he got the benefit of the decoy offered by Dimmock, and now they come back for Fittler to show it. Then Brasher puts the step on and he's in. Brasher gets the try for Australia at huge odds with the bookies over here to score first try. I think 25-1. And Brasher got it so easily.
Now, beautiful work, and that's what we've needed to see from Australia. Andrew Johns in at first receiver, a bullet-like pass to Brad Fittler. He went to the line. A lovely inside ball to Timmy Brasher. The gap opened up, and then the footwork to beat a despairing dive from Matthew Ridge. Great attacking play from the Australians. Tremendous inside work from their backs.
And already the ploy of Tuvey at dummy half and Andrew Johns at halfback is working with those long passes, cutting out 2 and 3 players, and Fittler, simple inside ball. Beautiful stuff. Tim Brasher gets the first try.
And what that does is catch out some forwards a little bit lazy and tight on the inside. Couldn't get there.
So Johns from right in front. He won't get them easier, and he raises the flag. So Australia in the early minutes against New Zealand, 6 points to nothing. Field at McAlpine Stadium with the good news if you've just joined us in the early hours of your Australian morning. Australia with Brasher scoring under the uprights. Johns converts, and Australia leading 6 points to 0 as Larson prepares to play it back on his own 20-metre line. And Carroll, I've got to say, Russell Smith ignored the 10 metres on that occasion. The Kiwis were well inside it. So Australia now using up 3 tackles as they get it 25 away from their own line, looking for the kick now. And Fittler, it does seem that that breeze is coming from behind him, although this is an amphitheatre or something like that, protected from most of the winds that are quite high as you stand around the heights of Huddersfield. Chris, what is that wind doing from down on the sidelines?
Well, it's swirling down here, Ray. It's possibly favouring the Australians at the moment, so Brad Fittler will get plenty of depth on that kicking game. And I must say, during the week, they put a lot of practice into the kicking game, the Australians.
That's Henry Paul doing some good work out of dummy half, but he's kicked it for Brasher to bring it back. And then Brasher is picked up, and he's just manhandled into the ground by Richard Blackmore. Australia come quickly to the right, and they've gone through the hands of their captain across for Dean Pay, who's tackled on the halfway line. He played a part in the try. He didn't handle, but he certainly was there putting his hand up. And he took a bit of heat away from Tim Brasher. Now it's Fittler going across the back of Carroll and out for Johns. And Johns gets in behind them. He picks up Terry Hill. He shrugs off what looked like a high tackle. Down and up again. Pulled down 22 out. Australia have got them stretched, and Andrew Johns comes across with a wide ball for Dimmock. Dimmock, oh, pulled down there by the number 4, Kevin Iro. Now from Larson on the 5th, and Fittler decides to put it through the hands, and Andrew Johns, he does likewise, intercepted by the Kiwis, but they've offered a knock on. So Australia will get the loose and the feed.
There's a handy hand there by Sean Hoppy as he put his Duke out. That saved a try. They had 3 players out there, but just a minute ago when Hill made that bust, he had Wishart unmarked on the outside. As you see the possible intercept.
Had that have stuck, it would have been 6 points all, because I, for one, think that he's the best winger in the game today. And he would have had the pace to be at the other end of the park.
And again, from this scrum, we see the blind winger for Australia, Rod Wishart, coming to the open side. So we'll see bodies in motion. Trying to put on a move from a very good attacking position. Wishart goes through, second man from Brasher.
Now Brasher has come around. He's made the extra man twice, in fact. And now he's put away by Ridge's tackle, completed by Barnett. Tuvey works the blind side, tries to put 3 on 2, and he's put down 5 out. As Coyne goes in for dummy half, and Carroll comes lumbering up to offer a decoy run. Larson is the ball carrier, and Gary's able to get a ball away. Coyne is with it. Coyne tries to dance through, gets it away for Carroll. Carroll throws a long ball. Andrew Johns, he got a flick back. Oh, Menzies! Menzies is in again! Menzies goes in for another touchdown.
Well, there's plenty of confidence in this Australian attack, keeping the ball alive. The cutout pass from Mark Carroll was a good one because it went into space. Fortunately, Andrew Johns got the right bounce and was able to just bat the ball back to Steve Menzies. What a tournament this player is having.
That equals the most number of tries in the tournament for Menzies. He now draws level with Robbie O'Davis.
Great work here from Gary Larson. Mark Coyne also bouncing back out. Mark Carroll got back into position to take the pass. And then, well, Andrew, that's just brilliance from Andrew Johns. He knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah, wonderful stuff there, especially from Mark Carroll. Had the foresight to look out wide, find the spaces. It was a speculator, but he knew there was plenty of green and gold jumpers out there, and Steve Menzies gets the second. And New Zealand under some pressure, not handling it at all.
So Andrew Johns will attempt to bring us to 12-0 in the second semi-final. Australia starting brilliantly for Bob Fulton. And Andrew, from about 12 metres in from touch, is just offline. 10 points to 0 then, 2 tries. And I must admit, somebody was talking to me about the odds on offer about the first try scorer, and Brasher was 25s and Menzies was 20-1 as we watch the try unfold again. These bookmakers out here, I don't know where they've been studying the form.
Well, John Hopewadi was 10-1, but that's just great work from Andrew Johns. Have a look at this. He knows exactly what he's doing. The hooker oh, that's great. That is just great to watch.
Yeah, Hopewadi was 10-1. He's not even playing.
Exactly.
Only reason there was no shouts of joy, Reds, we couldn't find Ladbrokes anywhere in Huddersfield.
Can you believe it? Can
it's
you
tragic,
believe
isn't
it? I'm just about to throw myself off the stadium.
Carroll plays it now. Tuvey goes on for Larson. And Gary Larson played a big part in that try as Bob Fulton looks on pensively. And there's a mistake from the Australians. And that's the first little sniff that they've given the Kiwis.
Yeah, Terry had a few problems in the last game he played here at Huddersfield last weekend. Some debate as to whether that ball went forward, but Russell Smith deemed it so.
Well, he'd need to get back into position quickly because they had a good blind to attack. They come the open. Instead, Henry Paul nowhere near the scrum despite the 9 on his back.
Horrow packing in at hooker. And the penalty goes to the Kiwis, and Matthew Ridge from here will take the kick from right in front, 25 metres out. They don't come any simpler for Matthew Ridge. Not allowed to get up and play the ball as he wanted, Henry Paul, and that brought the penalty.
Well, he earned the penalty just through fighting to get up and play the football. If he had laid there like a slug, there's no dramas, but he fights to get up, appeals to the ref, and it's almost a certain 2 points. Terry's got some blood coming from his lip. He got hit pretty hard when he dropped that football. He looks like his tongue.
So that's where Ridge has the penalty. Former All Black who debuted for the Kiwis back in 1990. So Australia are away to a great start. They've picked up where they left off in the Test series. And now Matthew Ridge will try and edge a little bit away from this 10-0 total, and that he does. 10 points to 2. Australia over the Kiwis. 26-8, 20-10, 46-10. The scoreline in those Test matches played in Australia. And they haven't been beaten by a New Zealand side since Melbourne in 1991. And that's gone out on the fall. A penalty goes to New Zealand, and that is an indicator of the strength of the breeze.
It's also an indication, Ray, that this field is a little bit shorter than what the rugby league field should be. It's a very narrow in-goal area, and I'm just wondering whether Matthew Ridge is tempted to kick for goal. I think he'd have too many problems with the distance, although that breeze might have been a problem. We could see there as he kicked for touch, it actually brought the ball back towards him as Lomax takes the ball 35 out.
Played quickly by Lomax. Paul goes over. Kemp gives it on. A face ball over. And the 12 is Pongia, who's put down 30 metres out from the Australian line. Now for Jones, and now they pick up Kearney lurking out wide. Hill is out there waiting for him. He got up and threw a little punch, and he's given a penalty for certain. He's put the Australian captain on the carpet, although I must say that Brad might have taken a little tumble here. Delayed reaction. Watch it. It wasn't a closed fist, and Fittler has taken the tumble, and the penalty has gone to New Zealand. That was for trying, I think he means, trying to rake the ball out while the player was trying to get up and play it. So New Zealand get the penalty.
Well, at the very least, it was for having the hand in there to stop the quick play of the ball, which is what Stephen Kearney was looking to do. Matthew Ridge now, he's 24 metres out. You'd have to fancy his chances from here a bit further than that, but he won't have any problems with the distance at all.
Well, there's Brad Fittler with his hand on the football, and everybody in the game does that. Now watch Brad. All of a sudden he says, I better fall over. I better fall over. But that penalty has been given for a player, Brad Fittler, not completely getting away from the man in the play the ball contest. That's all I can imagine. If they start giving penalties for that, they'll blow the peas out of their whistles. Ridge now from 28 out, looking okay. It's there. You can't give him a shot at them. 10 points to 4 at Huddersfield, the second semi-final. Spirited set of 6 by the Kiwis as they bring it back on the first set since the goal was kicked by Matthew Ridge, and Pongia it was who played it as they go over now for the front rower Lomax, and on tackle number 5 they managed to get it to the halfway. Jones puts in the kick, bounces outside the 20-metre line. Brasher, one of the try scorers, brings it back from the back of the play, pursued and put down eventually by the number 4 Kevin Iro.
Two of the great things about Timmy Brasher's play is firstly his positional sense. He knows where to be, and secondly, when the ball is kicked, he wastes no time getting to it. He doesn't dawdle. He gets the ball in his hands as quickly as possible and then tries to eat up every metre that he can before he's claimed by the chasers.
It's Tooby getting away from both markers and taking play 8 metres from the halfway. Across for Fittler. They get back on their game now with the kicking game of Fittler featured, and Barnett has a ring of green and gold around him, and Coyne is there for one, and Fittler put a good chase on his kick was the other. Now Fittler's asked to work from marker. He does that, and Henry Paul is going nowhere. So Barnett finds himself giving it off for Jones to go on. Kemp then for Iro, and big Kevin Iro. If he happens to find himself at Wembley next Saturday, it won't be any strange place. He scored tries twice in 3 consecutive appearances for Wigan in the late 80s and early 90s. And now the 12 is put away. That's Quentin Pongia. Back in the second row as Lomax makes his return today. Ridge rolls it in. He's looking for Barnett. Brasher's looking at Dallas. And Dallas comes off his own line, but they've got a ring around him. And the young Canterbury Bankstown wing 3/4 is put on the ground. Just outside the 10-metre line. Here's Rod Wishart coming off the other wing. No goal-kicking duties at the moment for Rod Wishart. Can totally concentrate on what he has to do out there. Jeff Tuvey just getting some attention as Terry Hill comes in and does what many people think he might finish up doing permanently, and that is playing in the forward.
Yes, Tuvey was quite slow up after making a good tackle on Kevin Iro in their last set of 6. Been good defence here from the Kiwis. That's the last tackle now. Slow play, the ball puts Fittler under pressure, and Henry Paul comes up with a good take for New Zealand inside the Australian half.
What about the Australian skipper? he wasn't happy with his own performance. He came over the top of Coyne and Dallas's tackle, and he absolutely smashed them, making sure of the tackle, but Brett Dallas wishes he hadn't. 35 metres off the Australian line, 10-4, and the New Zealanders getting a bit of a roll on. As Kemp gives a long pass, beautiful hands by Blackmore. He was in front of the ball, he went back and reached out and brought it in. And now Ridge goes from dummy half. They work on a narrow corridor. This is Lomax, and put away by Johns over the top of Hill. Marked by Tuvey, back for Jones. And Stacey goes high. It's a good bomb. Allowed to bounce, and Brasher is there, immediately tackled.
Well, it was a good bomb that no one went for. It just came down in the middle of nowhere. And Australia now under some pressure. Let me tell you, New Zealand have lifted on the backs of those two Matthew Ridge goals, 10-4.
So now they bring it back to the 20-metre line. And a flick pass out the back. Gee, we don't need that. Dallas is tackled on that 20-metre line. It was Jim Dimmick that chanced the pass. Tuvey uses pay, and Dean's able to get a ball away. Dimmick is there in support. Then he gets a pass off, but it's forward. Menzies was into space. Forward pass, loose head and feed for the Kiwis, 30 metres out.
And the Winfield Kangaroos starting to come up with some mistakes in their own half. We're going to keep the ball alive. Jim Dimmick again getting his hands free, but the referee came up with the right decision. And there's no doubt the Kiwis have lifted. They trailed by 10. To be back within a converted try has really put a spring in their step. Tony Kemp across field, calls Iro inside. A well taken centre field.
Kevin Iro playing it back for Stacey Jones, and now they go over for Kemp, who up till now has simply taken that role of pivot very much on himself. Catch and pass, catch and pass. And now Stephen Kearney, arguably the most creative of all their forwards. Lomax. Coyne did well. That's one thing about the Australian centres. They're very strong in defence. As Jones goes across, Kemp is there. He showed it inside. Blackmore, a prolific try scorer, gets it away for Hoppy. And Hoppy is able to bring it back infield, away from the touchline. They're only 15 metres out, plenty of personnel in the back line. They put it on the boot. In the in goal, let go by Australia. Very narrow in goal, and they didn't really gamble there. And they'll bring it back to the 20-metre line.
The tactic is a good one, but it's quite difficult to come up with the right execution with this in-goal area being so short. And Ray, please don't talk about the defensive qualities of our centres. Terry Hill's just come up with his first miss for a long, long time, and he's looked straight at you.
Larson. Tuvey and Carroll. And Carroll, the battering ram of the front rowers. Dean Pay, the creator. And Tuvey starting to get a little bit of ground out of dummy half now.
Yeah, but a big plus for the Kiwis is the return of John Lomax. He's been very strong. He's an underrated player still. We know the kind of stuff he's done for Canberra, as Matthew Ridge has to cover some ground to pick up this bouncing ball. In fact, he lets it go over the sideline. But Lomax has been very strong and tough up the centre of the ruck, and not going to be too many easy metres there with the likes of Lomax plugging up the centre.
This is an interesting little passage of play here. Andrew Johns was offside, and I watched him in particular. He looked across his shoulder at the referee. I've got a feeling he asked him, am I onside or what? And he gave himself a couple of more yards of pace when the referee nodded agreeingly that, yes, you are onside. But he was offside, and I think Andrew gave himself up, really.
I also think that's another one of those instances where if you find touch from inside your own half, you get possession back. Matthew Ridge should have had to have played at that football.
So the Kiwis and the penalty, well, they worked for the penalty.
Oh, they worked for it. Well done. They've tried something in their own quarter, and they put a dummy pass on. The Australians caught inside.
Well, the message to the Australians is be very careful until that ball is out behind the last line of forwards' feet. You've got to stay on the scrum. So eventually he penalised Australia for having too many backs. Now, This is Lowry, who crosses the halfway line. And the mode of this game has changed somewhat. New Zealand on the attack with Quinton Pongia.
One of the best aspects of the New Zealand play at the moment is the speed of their play of the ball. That's 4 tackles now, and they're looking to get to their feet quickly as Jones. He's put a kick in and come up with a knock-on in trying to retrieve. But if anything, the Kiwis are playing the ball quicker than their opposition, and they are getting very good momentum, similar to what we saw England do against Wales yesterday.
Yeah, I think the first thing Fulton says to his players will be to try and hold them down longer in the tackle, because New Zealand are really getting a roll on now. Australia struggling to get back their 10 metres, with their turning their back somewhat. It's John Lomax.
Is your friend going on, Mr. Okasini, as Lomax comes off. Hydro is on. 35 metres out from the Australian line. Kiwis coming up flat in defence. As flat as you can from the 5 metres back from the scrum. And here's a penalty to Australia against the tackler, Kevin Iro. And Brad Fittler finding the line at 10 points to 4. 25 minutes gone in the game. Tuvey taking the tap, and Carroll on a surge. 30 metres away from the New Zealand line. One gets the impression that Kiwis will be very disappointed if they're not the side that scores next. Fittler on the end of a beauty from Okasini. 20 metres out from the line. Tuvey now. Cross for Dimmick, and Dimmick able to stand and offload. Brasher losing the footing again. No gain in ground. Big tackle by Okasini, wasn't it? Now on the blind side, a fairly big blind, and Larson is put away by Pongia. 5 tackles gone for the Australians. And Johns goes to the air, a torpedo punt. Everybody's onside. Wishart almost plucked it out of the air.
Australia.
Kiwis are with it. And the turnover.
Well, it's a ploy that he's used in the Winfield Cup so successfully, and one of the great exponents of it is Andrew Johns, kicking for his wingers. Rod Wishart, well, he had it in his hands. It went straight through. The momentum would have taken him over the line. Getting into an important part of this game now. 14 minutes to go before half-time. It's even Stevens at the moment in general play.
Jason Lowry, Paul a dummy half. He dummied off to the blind side, and Mark Horrow, who's been around in internationals a long time. A good piece of work by Henry Paul, but Brasher has shut down a couple of opportunities for them simply by his anticipation and his ability to read what they're coming up with.
It's great football, isn't it? Those little things, willing to try something. Henry Paul, a new position for him, making his debut in the hooking role, but he's being very constructive around the rucks, and those little kicks keeping Australia on their toes.
Carroll now. 7 metres into the New Zealand half. They come back across halfway. They've got a lot of players out very wide. Brasher channels back in. John throws an ill-directed pass. Dean Pay had to go back for it, and not held, able to get it away. Dimmick is with it. He gets it inside. Johns is with it. Outside for Brasher. Further for Coyne. Dallas is with him on the outside. Inside is Brasher. He lobs it over the top for Johns. They're still on the same blade of grass that they started on. Dimmick is tackled. Okasini it was that made the tackle. Menzies now for Fittler. And Fittler keeps it on the ground this time as he goes across to Hoppy, and Wishart is there to put Hoppy down.
Some problems for Andrew Johns out there. He was poleaxed in that last movement as Barnett comes up with a surging run. That's a very strong run from a winger that's not that big, more wiry than anything else. Pongia now lines up, and a swinging arm called by the crowd, not the referee.
Keen for work. Lowry gets it out, and then Paul got it on. Kemp gave it off to Hoppy. And Hoppy is put on the turf. 5 metres into Australian territory, 28 minutes gone. Look at Okasini coming at them. Ran over the top of one.
It was Dean Pay. You don't see that too often. Last tackle now. Back to Kemp. Goes for the bomb.
Barnett's coming through. Coyne got a push in the back. It's been raked out of the air by Iro. Put down there for Kearney. Australia coming up with it, but it could have gone the other way just as easily.
Oh, they're playing well. They're playing with confidence. Iro got to that first, but those runs like what Ocassini came up with before, they're lifting this side.
And here's a penalty. And it's going to go to the Australians, one of whom is on the ground. I think it's Terry Hill.
They've got a few problems out there, Australia. I don't think Jeff Tooby's 100%. Terry's copped a few knocks to see a bit of blood on his forehead. Andrew Johns carrying a bit of a shoulder. I think the main problem I can see with Australia after the initial 10 minutes is a lack of depth in their attacking play. Plenty of players want to stand and pass, but they've got to get some depth so they can run back onto the football.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, especially when you've got the likes of Fittler and Andrew Johns, who are so good at putting the ball out in front of people. That and the speed of the play of the ball is still a worry.
Well, Terry's head was smashed into the ground there. That's why he's not well.
There was no beg pardon from Stephen Kearney. He wrapped Terry Hill's head in both arms and proceeded to bang it into the turf. And the smelling salts, whatever they call them these days, administered by the sheriff.
While this is going on, Rod Wishart is going through a stretching campaign on the far side. He's got his right thigh heavily strapped. So they may play a big role in this game for Australia, the 4 substitutes, as Carroll comes up with a mistake, drops the ball. Strong defence again. Pongia and Lowry. In fact, it's Horro going low.
There might have been some reports that there was no talking going on in the New Zealand camp leading up to the game, but there's plenty of talk now, let me tell you. They're on a high. The scoreboard says they're behind, but they can feel the pendulum coming their way. There's an Australian flat on his back on the 30-metre line as the Kiwis make for halfway.
Wishart.
Henry Paul, one of the stars in what New Zealand has done thus far. Jones, across now for Lowry. Lowry put away by Menzies.
He's heavily concussed Rod Wishart, which makes them vulnerable to the right. That's the way they go. They're short in numbers.
Kemp it is that got the ball on, but Iro knocks on. And the scrum will go down on the Australian 30-metre line.
Oh, that was danger for Australia then. As you can see, Robbie O'Davis, who's been in great form over here, standing by, but Wishart jogging back into position. And tripping over his own feet, so he's not 100% either.
And if I was the New Zealand team, I would still be attacking Rod Wishart at the first available opportunity when they get the football.
So he's pinched New Zealand now for being inside the 5 at the scrum. And the differential penalty from Andrew Johns is a good one that crosses the line about 28 metres out. Some urgency in the Australian game now. They realise that this Kiwi team is high on confidence. Larson has been hit with a high shot, and Smith, the referee, is quick to give Australia a penalty.
This is going to be a very crucial kick at goal, this one. 10 points to 4, 8 minutes out to half-time. I thought the Australians may have been thinking field goal at the end of this set of 6, but the kick is now made easier. Some back chat from the New Zealand team, and Andrew Johns will have a kick at goal 15 metres in from touch, only 20 metres out, and an opportunity to force their opponents to score twice.
Enormous weight on the shoulders of young Andrew Johns when you think about it. He's only played a couple of internationals, and he's in this match in the unfamiliar number 9 jumper, and of course replacing a prolific point scorer from the Kangaroo Tour, who's in the side out there on the park. Johns, about 18 metres in from touch. 20 metres out. Got it off the grass okay, but again he's wide. They will get the ball back though. 10 points to 4, no change. 34-minute marker. Trainers working overtime on the Australians, clad in their Winfield jumpers. Of course, the Winfield Kangaroos, as they're known on this World Cup mission. 10 points to 4 as the dropout from the 20-metre line is taken by Brasher, and Carroll, making one of his many runs, carries it back to the halfway line, and Larson is there. And now Gary Larson is 8 metres into New Zealand's territory. Tuvey on for Dean Pay. There comes the pass from him. Johns can't handle, scooped up by Lomax. It's Paul. And a penalty goes to New Zealand. So that was for, I guess, not allowing Henry Paul to play the ball. It's on Tim Brasher. And with the touch finder, they're going to be in a strong attacking position. Lowry will probably work to the right again, as Peter said, and still be keen to test out Rod Wishart's wing. Pongia in 12 is 12 metres out. Paul, a lofted pass, has taken the sting out of the attack. And this will be a scrum that Australia will relish with the loose head and feed.
Oh, yes. Mark Horro there, not able to take the pass. He was going a different direction to where the ball was coming from, coming back inside. Jeff Tuvey up very quickly. Australia will be happy to get to the half-time break in front here. They got a flying start. New Zealand have bounced back very, very strongly. And I still think if they can get to the other end of the field with some possession, the field goal is the tactic.
So that's a good sign for Rod Wishart that he came in and took the first play from the scrum. And now the lock forward, Jim Dimmick. 35 metres away from their own line as they work the blind side. Larson had the company of Coyne and Dallas as they outnumbered the Kiwis, but it was a very good tackle by the centre, Kevin Iro. And Dimmick comes in for a battering there from Okasini. On the halfway, Tuvey goes left. Johns carries it on. Fittler is with it. Fittler puts on a step. He's into space. Menzies is with him. Ball knocked down by the Kiwis. He's offside. Surely. Come on, that's got to be a penalty.
Well, Russell Smith is right in line with this. He's read it differently to what Uncle Rabs has. There's the knockdown. It looked okay, actually.
Yeah, I'd like to see it on a wide shot. You wouldn't say the same. There's Jones. There's 10 metres in front of the bloke that's touched the ball.
The Australian feed 20 metres out centre field. Time running out in this first half. Tim Brasher goes the blind side. If they can't score in 4 or 5, the 1 point would be very nice. 3 minutes left.
12 metres out from the Kiwi line. Carroll. Hit by Okasini, who's put in some big deliveries. The Australians now looking to put points on the board just in front of the break. Dean Pay gets it away. Andrew Johns then on for Menzies. Menzies puts on a step, and then he's hit by the defensive Iro over the top of Henry Paul. Tuvey now. They've stacked the blind side. Pay is with it. Now Coyne. Coyne. He's over. Coyne's in to score for the Australians. Right in front of the break. 14-4.
And that's a great breakthrough for the Australians right on the stroke of half-time. A very poor attempted tackle by Tony Kemp on Mark Coyne. Saw the St George centre slide through and score. It was a stacked blindside, but they had the numbers, New Zealand, and 2 players grabbed it thin air.
It's good to see. First of all, we saw Fittler using his own ability, making the long bust, and now Coyne does exactly the same. Too many players these days want to be put into gaps or set up someone with a beautiful pass. Good to see some players taking their own initiative, making the bust, using their skill, their steps, their dummies, and actually going through the defensive line. Fittler and then Coyne. And I'll tell you what, they needed that too. That might just take a wind out of the New Zealand sails. If they had headed into half-time at 10-4, they're still thinking there's some hope, but at 14 or possibly 16, just a bit down.
That's the point I made earlier, Paul. I think they probably felt they were the team entitled to score next. So Johns from 8 metres in from touch, 20 metres out. This time he gets it away again perfectly, but he's offline. So Bob Fulton is wondering whether he's thinking about the other goal kicker. 14-4. It's not that Johns are striking them badly. This is the try on replay for Mark Coyne, and doesn't he come up with some tries?
Oh, he does. He's got a great right foot step, and he's beaten many players with that right foot step through the dummy first. That sent Tony Kemp scampering out to cover the winger.
Talking of tries scored by Mark Coyne, his name rushes to mind when you think about the importance of some of those tries. Of course, the most memorable, that incredible State of Origin try. Now Gary Larson, about 38 metres out. Lomax has been taped up. Tuvey now. The halftime siren should be with us. We're into injury time now, as Brasher is put down over the top by Pongia, and it was Lowry underneath from the Sydney City Roosters. Well, a misunderstanding, and Tuvey has found himself into an opening, looking for somebody to join in. Carroll was his nearest colleague, and a knock on. Tuvey tried to give it to Fittler.
Well, there was a try went begging there as Tuvey came up with the bust up the middle. He's done a great job at dummy half. The pass possibly, well, it should have been thrown about 4 seconds earlier, and Menzies was under the sticks. So they've created some chances, Australia. Those will be happy, I think, with the last 10 minutes and the first 10.
Jones, as the halftime siren sounds, Russell Smith says there is no more, and the Australians leave at half-time having scored 3 tries and leading by 14 points to 4. Here's a break from Huddersfield. We're back with Peter and Paul summarising the first half in just a moment.
Pine Stadium in Huddersfield sees Australia lead New Zealand in the second semi-final, and a very good start for the Australian side, but New Zealand bounced back strongly. 3 tries to Australia in that first 40 minutes, Paul, but from the run of play in the first section, you wouldn't think that New Zealand would be that far behind.
No, look, after 10 minutes, I thought it was going to be 30-0. New Zealand were off their game. Australia was on fire early, but then New Zealand, they settled down. They started playing good, hard, solid rugby league, getting over the advantage line with the likes of the front rowers and Lomax and Pongia, and Mark Horrow's had a fine game as well. Henry Paul's done some good stuff around the rucks as well. And Australia had to absorb that. They did it well. I think the main thing Fulton will be happy with at half-time is the Australians' defence. New Zealand so far haven't made a line break as compared to Australia's 5, so that's one good thing that's come out of it for Australia.
It looked as though we would be going to the break 10 points to 4, and that would have been a real boost to the New Zealand side, only being the converted try behind. 14-4 down, it probably will take some wind out of their sails. The Mark Coyne try could be one of the most crucial ones for Australia during the tournament.
Yeah, no doubt about it. They worked hard for it too. I thought their best times for Australia were obviously the first 10 minutes and the last 10 minutes. They lost their way in between that with some... New Zealand got a few penalties on the run. They've got Matthew Ridge kicked 2 from 2. A shame for Andrew Johns. His boot's not working today. Only 1 from 4 for him. So the score could be up around the 20 mark. But I think they're going well enough, Australia, to go on with this and win it quite well.
We mentioned the Trans-Tasman series back in Australia where New Zealand were very disappointing, had a lot of tries and points scored against them. But defensively today, the likes of Pongia and Lomax, especially in the middle of the ruck, they've made it very difficult for the Australians. And the likes of Tuvey in that, not finding a lot of metres around the dummy half area.
No, they've hit hard. They're a physical side, and they didn't play that way during the year, but they are today. And that's good news for all New Zealand supporters. But Australia, I think they've matched it with them. Carroll, though, there's been a few loose balls. That's been their main problem, Australia. Their ball handling has let them down, as it did in the big match at Wembley a couple of weeks ago. If they can control the football, they'll win this quite well. Good to see Fittler running with the football. You know, that's good news for Australia. He's a devastating player when he's actually running with it and trying to make busts, and he set up the Coyne try beautifully.
Well, we're looking forward to a very good second 40 minutes here. I imagine the first 10 minutes in this second stanza will be very important. At the break, Australia lead 14 points to 4. Of course, the winner of this goes through to the decider at Wembley to meet England next week. At the moment, the Australians have the ascendancy. We'll take a break now and be back with all the second half action of our second semi-final from Huddersfield.
Welcome back to Huddersfield, to the McAlpine Stadium on, I suppose by English standards, quite a nice Sunday afternoon, but I can assure you that it's very cold if you are standing in the breeze. 14-4. If you just joined us. But I doubt that there'd be many people just joining us. Not at this time of the morning. I hope you're enjoying it from Huddersfield. We'll take the cameras to Wembley next Saturday for the final No Matter Who. The combatants. England waiting for the winner of this as Australia starts the second half of the second semi-final. And Lomax with the tape round the head from that blood bin earlier. He's tackled 20 metres out from his own line. 26 tackles did I see for Brad Fittler. It's an enormous amount of tackles for a 5'8". And then a knock-on. Which way has he ruled here? Yes, he's called the knock-on against the Kiwis. So a very, very important scrum. Gene Namu was the offender.
It was a knockback originally, but there's the little one there from Namu.
Australia with a loose head and feed. 25 metres out from the Kiwi line. They started great in the first half. Will they do something similar in the early minutes of the second half? A strong tackle by Iro on Coyne. Now Larson gets it back inside the 20-metre line. There's some heavy hitting in there. Tuvey across for Johns and then for Carroll. And big Mark Carroll will play it as the troops from Australia start to assemble on the blind side prior to going back to Fittler on the other side of the ground. Then an angle, and Menzies is there to be tackled, well read by the Kiwis, particularly Mark Horrow. O'Davis is on for Wishart. And we've got Gene Namu on for Tony Kemp as Andrew John's got a pass round the corner. Dean Pay is tackled 5 metres out on 5. Terry Hill passes. Dimmick is with it. Johns now. He puts in a little kick. And again, it's a shallow in goal, and it doesn't give you very much. And so back to the 20-metre line for the restart.
No, wrong kicks. The grubbers on this field today, similar to the North Sydney Oval, very tiny in goal areas, and the bomb across the field was the one there.
There's the New Zealand hierarchy and the coach, and Gary Kemble, one of his assistants, former fullback for the New Zealanders. Great career, was there for a long, long time, and Bob Fulton, the Australian coach, would be a little bit happier. Certainly would have been when Mark Coyne got across the line just before half-time. And Chris Bomblish, we got the reports out of the sheds at half-time. What did they say?
Certainly do, Sterling.
Here's a break, Chris. We'll come back to you. Iro got around Mark Coyne. Not an easy trick, but he performed it well. Namu has put a little bit of bite into the attack now. They go high. Jones put the kick in. Brasher didn't even look like getting near it. Iro gets it infield. The ball goes down off both sides.
Well, some desperation defence here by Australia. First of all, it was Jeff Tuvey on Kevin Iro after the bust. There's another great tackle out here by Brett Dallas. Once again here, right there. That saved the try. And a knock on by Coyne. Well, no, it's gone Australian feet. Don't know what he's ruled there.
Well,
there's a mistake.
Obviously, New Zealand knocked on first, but here they are with possession. Namu across. Henry Paul goes to the 10-metre line, and Brasher and Larson combine. And Larson holds him down as long as he can. And now the ref comes in and penalises for trying to steal the ball. Or for delaying the play the ball might be a more correct interpretation. So New Zealand will take the kick at goal. Chris Bomble, we interrupted you as you were telling us about what Frank Endicott had to say at half-time.
Thanks, Ray. Yes, Frank said he wanted his side to complete their sets of 6 and put more pressure on Australia. In the Australian camp, Bob Fulton said, don't be intimidated, stick to the game plan. And I can tell you that on the stroke of half-time, Australian team manager Jeff Carr came past, English referees coordinator. Greg McCallum is sitting behind us, and he intimated that they're not happy with the physical nature of the game as the crowd erupts.
The crowd's erupting because of the Australian trainers as being spoken to by the referee. I have to say that there has been a lot of movement by the Aussie trainers coming on throughout the course of this match.
Good on you, Sheriff.
So Matthew Ridge from very close range. He doesn't miss them. Comes back with a pleasing smile on the face. And 14-6, Australia over New Zealand.
While that kick was being taken, we saw the two players who left the field at half-time. Rod Wishart still obviously not feeling 100% after what was a strong tackle. We saw him come out worse for wear. And Tony Kemp appears as though he's picked up an ankle injury. And this is going to go close to being out on the... No, they've decided to catch it. Lomax, head centre field, taken by Jim Dimmick.
So the Kiwis now with Jason Lowry almost out to the 20-metre line. And no doubts from what we've seen so far in the early minutes of the second half. Bob Fulton has told the players to hold them down as long as they can. And this has brought a couple of penalties against the Australians. The New Zealanders were getting very quick play the ball on in the first half.
I think the two number 9s are just about being the best two players on the field. Henry Paul has caused all sorts of problems for the Kiwis, while Andrew Johns has been a complete success being brought into this game in an uncustomary position.
Lomax, Malcolm Reilly there. Newcastle Knights coach and former Great Britain coach. As Pongia was put away, a groan from the crowd. Pongia got up swinging punches at Dean Pay. And now Mark Horrow is tackled. Players 25 metres out from the Australian line. Paul on for Namu. Back, Jones, the angle up the centre. Offered for Kearney. It brought a try, you might recall, for Gary Larson in the match against Fiji. Now Blackmore. Beautiful hands. He was able to get it away. And Hoppy did even better. Now they've got all the ground to work in. Namu with a 15-metre pass. Iro puts on a sprint. Tuvey hangs on with Coyne. Some help from Dimmick, and that's the turnover. Good defence by the Australians.
Yeah, that was a very, very good tackle by Tuvey, because when Iro made his bust before, he got on the outside of Coyne, who was flat-footed, but Tuvey decided to run into him, put the pressure on Iro, and he covered him up easily.
Here's Dallas. Stephen Kearney trying to get a message to the New Zealand bench. I don't know that he's got a problem. Larson, and now Robbie O'Davis, joint leading try scorer in the tournament with his teammate Steve Menzies. Pay takes it up to Blackmore. Blackmore's got an incredible international record. 13 tries in 14 internationals, Richard Blackmore. Playing it back to Tuvey, who's been able to get some good ground out of dummy half a couple of times as the match wears on. Ridge now waits for his winger to come round, and then Barnett loses it out the back. It's play on, and Ridge was still there. Across and away from Namu. And this is Hoppy. Sean Hoppy on the right wing. Now, Henry Paul. One of the two players rated as the best on the park by Peter Sterling. Matthew Ridge. 14 points to 6. 8 minutes of the second half gone as Quentin Pongia takes it to the halfway line. Now it's a cross for Lomax, who runs for an age before getting a pass around the corner for Hoppy. Great work by Lomax. Australia didn't come up to meet him, though. It almost seemed like they waited for Lomax to arrive. Here's some danger. No, young Dallas is underneath it and safe with it.
Wonderful take by Brett Dallas, but danger signs for Australia, as you said, Ray. They did not move up in defence. They stood flat-footed, and then Dean Pay put on a shoulder charge, which did nothing. You've got to bring the man on the ground.
Yeah, he's put on a couple out there this afternoon, Dean Pay. He's normally very effective in defence, but a couple of times he's just been pushed off and sometimes given more momentum to the ball runner.
Now Tuvey goes across to his captain. They turn it in field. Menzies is into a gap. Now Menzies goes for the accelerator. They're after him. The Australian second rower. He's running out of faith. He's over. He's there. Menzies. That is superb. 6 tries in the tournament. 29 tries for the year. They had backs They had everybody bar the police chasing him, and they couldn't round him up.
And he's going to be one of the all-time greats in the game of rugby league. There is no doubt about that. Marvellous year last year, and he's backed it up. Look at the quick hands there from Andrew Johns. Again, beautiful work. And then Menzies straight around Stacey Jones. Sean Hoppy coming from his left, Matthew Rich from his right. He got the big fend out, pushed away from Sean Hoppy, who is a good defender but should have gone low. And Steve Menzies has run half the length of the field to get his second.
Well, how good is he? He's the best running forward, I think, Australian Rugby League has ever seen him and possibly will ever see. Look at the stride on him, a beautiful mover, and then the fend on the end of it. That's after running 50 metres at full pace. Just great stuff. He's a great player. And, you know, Bob Fulton doesn't care that if he only makes 5 or 6 tackles a game. Steve Menzies is there to do just what he did then.
Well, here's the young man that played an important part, Andrew Johns. His work with the captain in close, laid it on. Now he gets a goal. He'll be happy with that. And Australia reached 20-6 at Huddersfield. We break.
Join.
And welcome back to Huddersfield. You're back in time for the restart. And Terry Hill is brought down 20 metres out. Menzies. Well, Paul Vaughton has sent my mind flooding back to another very good running second rower who played with Bob Fulton for Australia, a bloke by the name of Bobby McCarthy. It'll be interesting to hear what Bozo has to say about what Fatty Vaughton said here today, a comparison of Menzies and McCarthy. Here's Tuvey now, sliding into a little gap. 20 points to 6, the green and gold, the Winfield Kangaroos in front as Fittler turns a pass in. Menzies overran it, and now Carroll working like a centre, putting the ball out for Coyne, drawing Dallas in, but dwarfed by Iro. 40 metres away from the New Zealand line, and here ball towed through, and it's with New Zealand.
It's great work from Mark Horro to dive on the ball. Jimmy kicks out in the tackle. Can't come out, or to play the ball, I'm sorry. New Zealand now 5 tackles up their sleeve in Australian territory.
52nd minute of the game. 14 points the margin. Plenty of time on the clock and 14 points in the modern game. Not a massive deficit. Stephen Kearney is put down about 27 metres out from the Australian line. Gene Namu puts a kick in. The ball came off one of the Australians and New Zealand come back with it, but Australia not playing at the ball, so he hasn't nullified the tackle count. Ridge gives it on for Namu to go out, and now Blackmore looking for a try as he rolls it, but it finds the touchline. Back to the 10-metre line for the mandatory restart now with the scrum.
Pretty poor option there from Richie Blackmore. It wasn't the last tackle. Just gave Sean Hoppy too much work to do. Was never going to get to the ball, and really it's just a handover of possession to the Australians who'll win this scrum and work it away.
Perhaps just on that, I mean, you probably saw a lot more of Bob McCarthy than I did, but I would possibly say that Steve Menzies does it more consistently. He does it every game, doesn't he? He's making those breaks like that every game. The best I saw was Noel Cleal, the crusher, but he's a different type of running footballer. He could just make something out of nothing, but once Menzies gets that open space, it's home and hosed.
Yeah, please don't think I was being critical of you.
No, it's good.
But you opened up some thought in my mind, and of course I come from a different era than you. Some people think I come from a different land than you. But you have got me thinking now about Menzies and McCarthy. It's a very good rugby league discussion point. We're on the 20-metre line now, out from the Australian line.
Well, Ray, you can just about speak with some authority about any player who's ever played rugby league, can't you?
Well, the game, of course, is celebrating 100 years here today, and
exactly.
This city is where it was born, and I can assure you that it's nothing like it was back in those days.
How good was Delhi Messenger anyway, Ralph?
Fittler now puts the... Would you both shut up, please? Like, turn it up, as Ridge now comes away from his 10-metre line. And runs across the park for Richard Barnett to come back and cross the 20-metre line. And now Sean Hoppy, who valiantly tried to run down Steve Menzies, but though he got to him, and obviously he's a touch faster than Menzies was able to fend him away. Now it is Lomax. Sloppy play the ball. Henry Paul did well. It's a penalty, though, to Australia. It's a penalty to Australia. He's penalised Lomax for rolling the ball back. No contact with the feet.
It's a crucial penalty, isn't it? Well, Jim Dimmick was hanging on to Lomax's foot. That was one of the reasons he couldn't heel it back.
I'll tell you what, Lomax, talking about eras, in the era pre-Greg McCallum, they wouldn't have said anything about that. That was a good play, the ball, by English standards.
Champion play, the ball. Jim Dimmick came up with that tackle. He's had a pretty good game too, Jim Dimmick, today. He's been very strong. He's been on either side of the rucks. He and Brad Fittler, who's controlled a few things, and when it's been necessary to take the ball forward, he's done that. Andrew Johns, this is a difficult kick. It's 40 metres in front of the sticks, but he is kicking into a very stiff breeze.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised they've decided to kick for goal here. They might have gone for touch. 2016, the opposition has to score 3 times anyway. They might have really tried to put the final nail in the coffin and come up with 6 points.
So Johns now from right in the centre of the park, 40 metres out. Magnificent game from the Newcastle youngster. He's got the height, but it's offline. But I don't know that it would have had the length either. As Ridge brings it back, and Matthew is tackled about 15 metres out from his own line. He was under a cloud, Matthew Ridge, one of several New Zealand players for this match. He's come through it okay, but I don't know that he's totally himself. Tony Iro is on, Lomax is off, and Iro, Tony that is, he can create something with his ball skills, which I think has improved immensely. There's the man he took the place of, John Lomax. And now it's Gene Namu running into a former teammate of his in Jeff Tuvey. They duelled really for the number 7 jumper at Manly for a long time.
Kearney plays the football. He's one player who's been very well contained by the Australians. Caused them some problems back in the home test series. He was on the last tackle. Robbie Davis fields the kick, strong tackle from Blackmore. Kearney really hasn't been able to do anything on the fringe of the ruck, and he's one player the Aussies would have been fairly concerned about.
Just looking at Robbie O'Davis, that man there, Richard Blackmore, is very strong and he's big, and he just dropped O'Davis on the park. And then Iro, Tony, came over the top, and O'Davis is still blinking the eyes and shaking the noggin. He's all right though, Mrs. O'Davis. As Dean Play is put away now, just inside the 30-metre line. They've gone across for Brad Fittler and then on for Andrew Johns. Now they've got some numbers. Hill gives it away. O'Davis goes back in field, and Hoppy was there, always shadowing him. Now for Andrew Johns. His kick bouncing back inside the 20-metre line. 57 minutes gone on the clock. 20 points to 6, Australia. 4 tries. And Jason Smith is on for Mark Carroll. A scoreline that could have been much larger had Andrew Johns been right on line, as he so often is. But then again, I suppose New Zealand, from their point of view, can think that 4 tries to nothing, they haven't been that much inferior to Australia. Bozo watching from a fairly packed grandstand. Here's a bust by the Kiwis. 35 metres out, Richard Barnett. Namu. Iro. Now it's Blackmore. Terry Hill is there with Andrew Johns, and the referee orders the turnover. Davis off his wing got an ordinary pass from the dummy half. Jason Smith. The success stories of the Kangaroo Tour. Jason Smith. And of course Bob Fulton's in a pleasant position on that bench. He had Jason Smith there, and also of course Nick Kosef. And Kosef, like Jason Smith, can take some of the pressure off Brad Fittler. That last tackle on Gary Larson didn't help him, as Mark Carroll relaxes on the benches, and Brasher is now 5 metres into opposition territory. 20 points to 6, almost an hour of the match is gone, and Fittler puts the kick in behind Ridge. Ridge will be forced to bring it back off his own line. And the tackle made effectively by Jim Dimmick, and I was going to mention earlier, and we got a bit sidetracked as Rod Wishart watches on, but Jeff Tuvey's defence today has been outstanding.
I've got to agree with Paul. I don't think that Jeff Tuvey is 100%, but it shows just how big his heart is, and he just keeps taking on the big blokes and putting them on the deck and coming up with important tackles. When he's very good at reading where he's needed and getting there quickly. Iro now confronted by strong Australian defence once again.
Including Tuvey. Namu now spears the ball across. And here they are with Tony Iro using Henry Paul. Stephen Kearney turns it back in for Quentin Pongia to pick up Tony Iro for Stacey Jones. And he's put away 29 out by Brasher. The Kiwis, though, piling on some attack. They're on the last tackle. Kevin Iro taken out there by Fittler. The ball lofted across for Blackmore. Turned inside. They're over. That's a try by Richard Barnett. The youngster has grabbed a try against the Australians.
And what a great try it was, starting off with the previous play. Ball going through, must have been 8 or 10 sets of hands. And then on the last tackle, they've gone to the left-hand side. They should have received a penalty, New Zealand. Australia were well and truly offside, especially Brad Fittler, but the referee played good advantage. Namu, the long pass out to Kevin Iro. He took on Fittler, was able to get the ball away over the top. Richie Blackmore taken by Dallas. Great pass back inside behind Stephen Menzies to Barnett, who gets the ball over for their first.
Sensational stuff by New Zealand. They're not laying down here at McAlpine Stadium. They come storming back into the match. Kevin Iro has come to life in the second half, causing all sorts of problems. This is a beautiful ball from Richie. Back inside, there's plenty of green and gold there, but not enough to stop Barnett.
So that is their first try. And if he converts this, they'll only be 8 points in arrears. It sounds crazy, doesn't it? 4 tries to 1. And if he converts this, they'll be 8 behind. And you'd like to think that he will kick it. Well, no, I take that back. We'd like to think that he doesn't kick it. But Matthew Ridge it is, behind the ball, and there's the kick. And it's just wide. So the scoreboard stays the same. 10 points the difference at Huddersfield. Well, you've come back to us, Australia, at precisely the restart in the game. Following the New Zealand try, Ruben Wiki is now on for Mark Horrow. They've got some depth on the bench as well, haven't they? But I know we're playing a match involving Australia, but I can just hear the screams of delight coming from the Cronulla fans with Richard Barnett getting that try. Now the New Zealanders with nothing to lose. They can take all the chances in the world as they go through Jones and pick up Namu, who's put some spark into them. He's taking the defence on. Look at the strength of Iro. And Barnett is with it again now. 35 out from the line. We'll keep our eye on that scoreboard for time more than anything. That'll go out on the full. 63rd minute of the game now.
Yeah, Mark Coyne having some problems containing Kevin Iro. Just wondering if Bob Fulton might give some thought to maybe putting Terry Hill over there, the bigger, stronger player to Mark Iro, and switch Coyne back to the left-hand centre spot.
My thoughts go back to yesterday afternoon at Old Trafford, where England appeared to be fairly comfortable against Wales, but in the last 10 or 15 minutes, the Welsh really lifted, put a scare in to the English side, and that's what New Zealand are doing here to Australia. So you really just have to consolidate now. That means nothing too fancy. Keep positive with the football, but don't take unnecessary risks, and more importantly, play good field position. That was forward. Can't make those mistakes.
The man in the centre did not get any help from his touch judge, who had a perfect line on it. Dean Pay thought about giving it out the back, but thought better of it. This is the last for Australia as Fittler moves in and puts that left foot to the ball, keeping it low. Down into the corner, Ridge has the ring around him, and he passes Matthew across for Sean Hoppy. And Hoppy is tackled 7 metres away from his own line. 20 points to 10 then. Australia with 15 minutes left. to see them go to Wembley to defend their own championship. Something that they've held the last 4 times it's been contested. And here's a penalty to New Zealand. Henry Paul quickly across and taking the kick for touch. This Huddersfield Stadium has been kind to Henry Paul with the Wigan club. They won the Regal Trophy last season, and a cup semi-final they won as well against Warrington here at McAlpine. And Henry Paul will not be all that accustomed to a loss, if in fact that's to be the case for New Zealand today.
It's been a class performance from this number 9. He really has been the catalyst around the rucks for New Zealand. Made a lot of metres. Gene Namu's made a difference in this second half. Throws the dummy that time. It's not taken.
Well, I found it hard to believe he wasn't in the team ahead of Tony Kemp. Fair dinkum.
Jones. Up wide is Kearney, and this is the big centre, Blackmore. He's lost it. Terry Hill's got a chance to put O'Davis down the flank, but Hoppy, he reassembled his thoughts so quickly. Now Jim Dimmick. Driving stuff in there from Quentin Pongia. Terry Hill, a dummy half, and Fittler running across the ground and then putting that big step on. Doesn't necessarily, that's not a knock on. And the referee said it is. And he was arguing with him.
Well, Timmy Brasher blew up, but I think he was angry at himself more than the decision against him. Australia had a chance to get down the other end of the park there.
No, if that's a knock on, I'm not here.
Ray, you here?
Just turn to the left. I can see your abs. It ain't pretty, but you're there.
This is Paul. Namu turning it in for Blackmore. And he ran straight into Steve Menzies, who came ricocheting off. Split screen of the 2 coaches. And they're going to get a smile out of them. Bozo's in front by 10, so he's holding the aces. But the Kiwis gallantly trying to get back as Tony Iro ran across, and then Hoppy takes the tackle 25 metres out from the Australian line. Jones. Played by Ricky. And then a little kick by Paul, sits up for Brasher, and Brasher is off and away from the 10-metre line to be tackled. I was talking to some of the fellows that help us here when we're in England about the combination that Brad Fittler and Tim Brasher have developed, particularly in this last 12 months. And of course they go way back to schoolboy football together. Is it any wonder? Dimmick comes into a strong piece of defence.
Really like the performance of Jim Dimmick as well this afternoon. Oh, big tackle there on Gary Larson. Dimmick hasn't tried to do too much. He's realised that when he's got 2 and 3 defenders hanging off him, he hasn't tried to force anything. He's just closed up shop at exactly the right time. He's not come up with mistakes. They kicked too long from Andrew Johns, but at least takes a little bit of time off the clock and allows Australia to get their defence set against this tap restart.
We're coming up to 69 minutes gone. 20 points to 10, Australia. And this is Barnett. And some confidence in his sails, having scored that try. It's a memorable try for him too, even if he belongs to a beaten side. You'll remember that. Paul couldn't find a call. It's a typical example of a playmaker not talking. Poor old dummy half with his back to his teammates, desperate for a call, and a penalty goes to the Kiwis. So then, if they could score and convert here, we are in for a big finish. A nail-biter could be coming up here at McAlpine. Lowry, 12 metres off the line. Now from Namu, it's into the hands of Tony Iro, and they've reached where they were heading. Get to the centre, then we'll do it the way we would like, and Kearney is able to barrel away from Tuvey. Getting deeper into the tackle count, but they're getting deeper into the territory as well. Now they send Quinton Pongia into them. And Australia penalised for being up inside the 10. So the likelihood of a try becomes even more possible. It's Okasini.
That's great defence.
Now Jones turns it inside for Kearney. He's great with the ball. They're able to put him away, Stephen Kearney. 10 metres out. Now Gene Namu. Now they've got the numbers, the Kiwis, and Iro! Tony Iro is in! 20 points to 14.
He's an impact player, Tony Iro, and that was all too simple. We come back to the mistakes made by Australia in their own half. Tim Brasher may not have knocked on from the dummy half position, but the referee felt that he had, and that gave possession to the Kiwis. And they're starting to smell an upset late in this match. Namu changes the point of attack. Across to Iro, the Australians not coming up. Larson going across, Tuvey standing flat-footed, and the gap opened up between the two.
Yeah, clever work by Namu. He's been their best player in the second half. He's added some real spark to them. And Gary Larson must be getting pretty tired. As there goes the kick from Matthew Ridge. It's over. We've got a game on our hands now, Ravi. 20 points to 16, Australia lead.
Bob Fulton must be very tempted looking at Matthew Johns and Nick Kosef sitting down there in the dugout. There are some players out there getting very tired. The referee telling the Australians to hurry up. He's also telling the trainers to get off the field once again.
So we're set for one very big finish here. Tony Iro through the tackle of Larson and through the gap of Larson and Tuvey.
It's all about field position now, Ray, and Okasini gets some pretty good one from the restart, taking it outside the 20-metre line. The Australians cannot give away penalties and give the opposition another set of 6, and you've got to play the football game at the other end of the field.
So Henry Paul is pulled down. He throws the pass back, and Matthew Ridge gives it on for Okasini, then for Stacey Jones. He runs into Larson and Dimmick. They're back on their own 20-metre line. Australia desperate to get the football back. Stephen Kearney has reached the 30-metre line.
Can't give away
now
a penalty.
Henry Paul outside the 40-metre line. The crowd willing on New Zealand. Jones on 5. Ridge rolls it in behind them. Brasher comes out of the deep. The bounce favourable for the fullback.
Now there's a question mark on Australia getting back on side. We've still got 5 or 6 players not on side yet.
And that's why it's important for the likes of Terry Hill, Brasher, O'Davis, coming in, taking some pressure off.
Big defence from Tony Iro.
Oh,
Jeff Tuvey's into space. Ridge has got him. Okasini holds him down on the halfway. Australia now, they put on the attack. Andrew Johns and Jim Dimmick. And then Coyne gave Dallas an opportunity.
Well, that was it. That could have been the game. As they used that short blind, the hands were on. And Dallas was into the open space. He had Ridge to beat.
Yeah, I don't think he'd have beaten Matthew Ridge, but it is a mistake.
Pass apparently from Mark Coyne was touched by Richard Barnett. Obviously not in a forward direction because he's given the feed to the Kiwis. Yeah, well,
He still should have caught it.
yeah, it was. He had a good grab at it, but now the Kiwis. There's Namu bringing Barnett in from that wing. So they're 31 metres out from their own line.
Keep stressing that the Aussies cannot give away a penalty. They almost did there. Brad Fittler in front of the referee. He had a look. He's having a word to him now. Got to play at this end of the field. And the worst thing they can do is to give away an easy 30 or 40 metres via the kick.
Inside the last 6 minutes, 4 points the difference. Australia 20 points to 16. Incredibly, 4 tries to 2. 5 minutes of the match remaining right now. From Jones, they go wide. Namu gives it on. Iro. He's really made a difference, and Dallas will come up with the ball on the advantage for Australia. Brett Dallas. 7 metres his side of halfway. Now it's O'Davis. Some of these Australian forwards really have reached the bottom of the tank now. They are very tired. Terry Hill, a good run by him. Mark Coyne uses the blind, comes back into the centre. He's just outside the 20-metre line. 4.5 minutes to go. 4 points the difference. Australia against New Zealand. Fittler's in fielder. Dimmick's pass astray. Andrew Johns off. Larson's with it to the 20, and he's tackled and put away on 5. So now Andrew Johns goes to the air. The bomb is a beauty. Ridge underneath it. Oh, Brasher had it and put it down. Referee Smith is taking it out to the 20-metre line for the restart.
And now he's got Terry Hill for offside.
So he's called timeout.
He's going to put him in the bin.
Yellow card.
Oh, he's kidding.
Terry Hill to the sin bin.
Look, New Zealand have been offside, fair dinkum all game. That last ruck Australia had, they were back 3.5 metres. And Russell Smith is only penalising one side in that area.
Well, he sin-binned him for a professional foul, really, hasn't he? In the circumstances of the match, New Zealand looking for the quick restart. Terry Hill went out of his way to stop that. We've got under 4 minutes to go, 13 against 12, and Okasini winding up.
Larson there to meet him. Under 3 minutes left, Australia by 4. Now it's Iro. Tony Iro. He, along with Gene Namu, really provided New Zealand with some great comeback material. Ruben Wicke in 16. Away from Namu now into the hands of Kearney. Wide for Kevin Iro. Kevin pulled down 30-metre line underneath him. Ridge. Stacey Jones on for Kearney. They angle back. Now Ridge is with it. Blackmore. They're heading for the corner. They're in. Kevin Iro scores. 20 points all. Ridge will kick from the sideline.
And if you'd want anybody to be kicking, it would be Matthew Ridge. They could have grabbed this one in the final minutes. Kevin Iro, who's been outstanding in this game. We haven't seen him play well at international level for quite a while. But he's come up with something special this afternoon, and it may be very much in the form of a match-winning try. Keeping the ball alive. Iro, the handoff. Henry Paul found some space, got a good ball away, and then tremendous hands from Blackmore. Robbie O'Davis shouldn't have come in off his wing. Brasher couldn't put the big man over the sideline.
Well, you've got to see this about New Zealand. They've competed all match, and they've come up with the equaliser. A great try, Australians. They're out on their feet. They're very, very tired. And the defensive mistake, O'Davis there. Larson was coming across. And Iro into the corner. I suppose if you're looking for someone, any goal kicker in the world, to break a deadlock in a semi-final, let's see who's going to Wembley, you'd pick Matthew Ridge, wouldn't you?
So Matthew Ridge from the sideline, 20 metres out. You'd have to think this to win it, but he's missed it. So we look like we're going into extra time. It'll be 10 minutes by 10 minutes. And then if required, they'll go another 10 minutes. And you've got to think the way they're finishing, they're the team coming down the hill.
Yeah, look, they played well. Australia do look tired. They've got Terry Hill in the sin bin. Let's not forget that. That's Terry played on this side of the field in defence. They missed him there. But, you know, once again, I don't want to be critical of Russell Smith, but he's really been lackadaisical, penalising New Zealand for being offside in that area.
Well, if Australia do have one advantage going into extra time, apart from getting Terry Hill back on the field, it is the fact that they have two fresh replacements. Matthew Johns and Nick Kosseff haven't been used in this game. All four substitute for New Zealand are out there. There's one of them, Okasini, taken by Demick. So Matthew Johns and Nick Kosseff really could come on and do something for their side just because they've got the fresh legs.
Jones's pass finds Namu. Then Blackmore. 10 metres into Australian territory.
Oh, what about a long-range field goal?
Namu through to Jones. 31 metres out on tackle 5.
Last tackle, Namu wants it. It's gone back to the wrong man. Now to Matthew Ridge. Left footer.
Gets the shot in. Brasher watches it, but it's wide.
Oh.
So back to the 20-metre line for the restart.
What about that? Oh, if they had gone to Ridge originally, he had a mile of time, but it went to the wrong man. He's a freak. He's come back on his left foot, and it's missed by a fair dinkum inch.
I don't need this.
So Australia. We are now in injury time and faced with the prospect of another 20 minutes. And my understanding is that if it's locked up at the end of that 20, they would play another 10. There's the siren for the end of 80 minutes. 20 points all. 4 tries to 3. We look back on the goal-kicking performances now and realise just how important they are. 20 points all at the end of 80 minutes. So 10 by 10. And at the end of 20 minutes, if they're still equal, they would play another 10. That's the way the tournament rules read. A mighty comeback by New Zealand. Terry Hill still in the sin bin.
And psychologically, New Zealand must be much better off. Australia, they'll be standing around, can't believe that they've faced by another 20 minutes and they haven't won the football game. They led by a big margin.
Well, they've had the game won 5 times. And you can see Frank Endicott there talking to his players, his charges, willing them on. Brad Fittler doing the same job for Australia. There's Frank Endicott, the Auckland Warriors reserve grade coach, but he's got the national job for them. The blood on Tony Oro's lip. Great stuff from this.
That's Rod Wishart under there. We're at Riding Hood. Still really a bit sick and sorry. Andrew Johns, Brad Fittler, getting some information from that man there, Bob Fulton. High drama here in Huddersfield.
You can see all the referees have gone over to talk to Greg McCallum, get the instructions.
And if anything, you've got to favour New Zealand in extra time. Terry Hill still has another 6 minutes to serve in the bin. Australia, they've just got to dig so deep and think defence, 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 especially for the time that they are a man short. This is where we are going to see the good and the great players rise above the rest and prove the difference in the match.
Tell you what, Pete, a great comeback by New Zealand, wasn't it? One of their best players today being Richie Blackmore in the centres. Isn't he a fine player? He's done some great things.
Yeah, he's a marvellous player, and you know, I've got to say I had doubts about his pairing with Kevin Iro in the centres when you consider that put Ruben Wiki on the bench. But Frank Endicott's got it right. The two centres have been star performers for the team, especially in the second half.
You can see Russell Smith there. Matthew Johns looks on. He'd love a taste of it. The team swap over. And here we go again. Who's heading to Wembley?
How much would England be enjoying this?
Both teams at the end of that got a standing ovation from the crowd. They possibly didn't realise there was going to be extra time, but they settle down now.
So let's set the scene. It's 10 minutes each way. We've done confirmation after confirmation. It is not a case of who is the first scorer. It is 20 minutes. They'll turn at the end of 10. If it's level, then they would go into another period of 10 minutes with the first team to score determined as the winner. That is the way the rule book reads. So, Ridge starts. Australia with 2 fresh replacements, Matthew Johns and Nick Kosef. New Zealand have none. Larson is 5 metres out from his own, or should I say 5 metres inside his 20-metre line. Dimmick is on the 20-metre line. Now it's Brad Fittler. Tuvey is away from dummy half. He positions Robbie O'Davis, and O'Davis is tackled on the halfway. 20 points all at the end of full time. We're in extra time. Fittler goes over for Andrew Johns, and he comes back in to be tackled by Sean Hoppy. Able to get it away, though. Tuvey comes back into the middle. Tuvey, and is taken there by Matthew Reid. 30 metres out on 5 tackles. Jason Smith turns it in for Larson. Just looking at the way the Australians were setting there, they were looking for a drop goal. Andrew Johns kicks ahead, the ball in the in goal over the touchline.
And Brad Fittler was looking for the long range. 1-pointer at the end of that. It could be enough in this game. There was a mix-up. Fortunately, Andrew Johns had dropped back to give him a little bit of an out. And that kick just going into the in-goal area. New Zealand on their second tackle. Look for Ruben Wiki.
Well, I think it's too early for 1-pointers. You've got to get a try and try and put them to bed. Maybe get the try, then go for the 1-pointer. But tries are what's all about. Here goes Iro.
Kevin Iro, 5 metres on his side of halfway. And now, his brother Tony, stampeding run. Kicked ahead by the New Zealanders. And now with Jim Dimmick. Dimmick working in traffic. Just watching the Australians trying to take that long drop goal attempt. I'm wondering what message they have in regard to how this match will be decided. Dean Pay got it away. The pass was forward. The referee gets a call from the touch judge.
And a penalty. Someone said something.
There's some dissent from Jeff Tuvey. I think both passes looked as though they might have been forward, but Russell Smith missed them. He got the call from the touch judge. And then one of the Australians, possibly Tuvey, has said something. So this is a big advantage for New Zealand now. They'll be deep into Australians' half.
So this penalty will see New Zealand finding the line over almost in front of where Jerry Hill is seated over there on the bench. Ocassini. Crowd love Ocassini's performance here today. Back now for Namu. Tony Iro. Seldom has he laid importance on a game like he has here today. Namu, just outside the 20-metre line. Wiki has moved in, calling for the ball at first receiver. Wiki is with it and now inside the 20-metre line. Andrew Johns made the tackle. The 9 is Henry Paul, within 6 metres of the line on 5.
Matthew Ridge wants it. He'll take the point.
Ridge is set, but then passes. Kearney angles Barnett back in. He goes for a shot. So I can only imagine that these teams think whoever scores the first points will win this match.
Well, they do seem desperate, don't they? As Coyne hits one up, gets a good 10 metres, but on the inside then Barnett actually had some space to run to, but decided to go for the field goal. Tuvey nearly gets through.
Brasher.
Well, we've received a report from the Australian camp. They know that this goes 20 minutes. So both teams really feel as though just getting any points on the board is going to have a profound effect on their opposition. Change of play back to Andrew Johns. Jim Dimmick did well to take that. just struggling, the Australians, to get themselves organised here.
Andrew Johns, he sets himself to put a drop goal over, and it goes over the dead ball line.
Well, I think it's ridiculous having a field goal shootout and still a mile of time, only 4 minutes gone of extra time. There's still plenty of time to work for field position. Maybe bomb to your wings as the boys get warmed up, Matthew Johns and Nick Kossoff.
So who is it going to be on Saturday? New Zealand or Australia taking on England? And here is Quinton Pongia, tackled by this gutsy number 7, Jeff Tuvey.
He's had a game, Jeff Tuvey.
Ocassini.
And Terry Hill about to come back into the fray as well, so the full complement of Australians about to be the case as Tony Iro and Gene Namu again combined. And haven't they done it well in the second 40?
Jones into the hands of Kearney. Kearney's pass behind and with Gene Namu now. And Terry Hill is now back on the ground. Australia get back to the full complement. Robbie O'Davis allowed that to go. The scrum will pack 10 metres out from the Australian line.
And that's good play there by Matthew Ridge. Good solid play. Now they'll come up with some big defences. Terry's back on there, try and wait for an Australian mistake.
Matthew Johns has come on now. Dean Pay leaving the field. Low torpedo, let go by O'Davis. That was the better play. Really didn't want to come up with a mistake and give the opposition possession. At least this way he's given away maybe 15 or 20 metres, but should get the football. Just working out now how the pack will be organised. Jim Dimmick going into the second row.
I'd say last and up to the prop.
And Fittler at lock.
Terry Hill. Sin bin for professional foul. And in the period that followed, Kevin Iro levelled at 20 points all. Australia, though, a let-off with Ridge failing to convert. Here's Matthew Johns now. 30 metres out from his own line. So Andrew and Matthew are both in there. Jason Smith got a pass back. The Australians, down the ground they go. Touched by New Zealand. He didn't call it.
Terry Hill.
Doesn't matter whether he calls it or not. Terry Hill is over. And Australia score wide out.
Well, he's been on the field a matter of seconds, but he's put the ball down wide out after some brilliant lead-up work. Jason Smith got a tremendous pass away. Looked like he was going to slice through. And Terry Hill, 3 tries in this World Cup. I don't think we'll see one more important. The dummy thrown by Jason Smith. The pass back inside. Terry Hill gets his first touch. Jim Dimmick, that was touched by a New Zealand player. Brilliant hands there from Matthew Johns, and Terry Hill set sail for the line. Great try under pressure.
Beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff here by Australia. Some great passing. And Tezza finds something, gets to that corner. And all of Australia went up as one.
Well, like I say, I've had a nice, calm, collected time in Great Britain. And I just didn't need a game like this. Just Terry Hill, well, in fact, we did. It's just been a magnificent semi-final, worthy of a final. This one. It's still a long way to go in this extra time. It's not home for the Australians yet. They've got to know that. They can't relax. And this next set of 6 is very important from the restart.
2 from 6 for Andrew Johns. It would be a touch of irony if he kicks this. 2 metres in from touch. On its way and just wide again. So 4 points the difference. 8 minutes of the first, 10 minutes of extra time elapsed. Well, if you people had thought that you might be a touch late for work tomorrow, you're doubly excused if you're a touch later. Terry Hill scoring a try that might well have taken Australia to Wembley to defend their crown. That makes it 5 tries to 3. Brasher, who scored the first, And remember the start Australia got. It seemed as though it was over after 10 minutes.
And that was good play from Timmy Brasher. Took the ball on the full, could have offloaded to Gary Larson, but no need to throw an extra pass in your own territory. And Timmy Brasher made it to the 20-metre mark by himself.
Jeff Tuvey's game today, I mentioned defence earlier, but he has found himself running into vacant space so many times in the game. The Manly number 7 has had one of his great games, and we're pretty confident that he's not 100%. Matthew Johns on 5. His brother gets the kick in. The winger for New Zealand has touched it. Everybody's onside. And of course, we're talking about one hell of a winger. Sean Hoppy kicking to him on the full can be a very dangerous pastime. Henry Paul, 30 metres out from his own line. Richard Barnett is now 42 metres out from his line. Australia 24-20. Jones, Pongia, got away from Tuvey, but then Matthew Johns and Stephen Menzies made the tackle. Jones crosses the halfway line, ran into Larson, he wrapped him up. There's the end of the first 10. So I don't think they break here. I think they'll go straight around.
Some cramp starting to appear with a couple of the players out there. That's another thing they have to battle against.
Well, Gary Larson, once again, you know, I think Rabs is calling him about 4 times every minute. Tackling, running. It's been great for Australia the last couple of games they've played. Okasini juices up.
I don't want to make this comment sounding as though it's sour grapes. I mean, we are in front by 4. But I'll tell you what, this man in the centre, he hasn't made this job any the easier for the Australians. His interpretations of the rules a couple of times have left me bewildered, and I don't try intentionally to go out of my way to bag referees. But his interpretation of our 10 metres and their 10 metres, and a couple of other little things that have happened in this game that have left me quite bewildered. As Andrew John starts, and a deepish kick off, don't tell me.
Well,
Andrew, our nerves are not good enough for that.
Well, what was Quentin Pongia doing catching the football anyway?
So, this is Okasini now.
All he had to do was actually put his foot on the white line and catch the football. It would have been a penalty to Australia.
It was harder for him not to get a penalty for his team there than it was.
Well, no, that's not right, Paul. If he had his foot on the dead ball line, it would have been a penalty to New Zealand.
That's what I said. Did I say Australia? No,
yeah.
Penalty to New Zealand, I meant, Rabs.
So it's New Zealand now, behind by 4. We're in the second period of 10. Brasher is back. O'Davis comes back to help him. They did something fantastic with this play. I don't think they'll use it. Yes, they are. O'Davis falls in. They run across to the right of the ground, but it's not working like it did against the Fijians. Now Coyne, as Barnett works overtime in defence. Dallas puts on a step and tries to beat Iro. These monsters in the centre, they've been great. Iro and Blackmore. Now Mark Coyne, then it's Brett Dallas, and he's 40 metres away from his own line. To be a dummy half. John, wide for Matthew, then wide for Hill. Terry Hill, he had Menzies on his right, still going. Terry Hill has tackled, 25 out, tackle number 5. Now from Menzies to Larson, then for Jim Dimmick, now for Johns, he puts a kick in. They go back into the in goal, they'll try and keep him in there. They're going to do that, they'll get it back, the Australians.
Andrew Johns, so cool. You could see exactly what he was trying to do, get another set of 6. The perfect play in that situation. Away from Matthew Ridge. Ball was picked up by Henry Paul, and the Johns boys combined to get Australia another set. Johns down again with cramp.
Andrew Johns displaying maturity in this game far beyond his years. Getting some attention for cramp. If Terry Hill, and I know it's easy from here, if he had a look to his right then, he had Menzies unchecked inside. Terry Hill now, wrestled down by the 11, which is Stephen Kearney. 24-20 and 7 minutes to go as Larson hammers it to the 20-metre line. Tuvey now, looking for Brad Fittler. And there goes the captain! There goes the captain! Brad Fittler's in, you little beauty! Fittler scores. He chooses so purposely and so rarely to take them on himself, and when he does, he invariably comes up with a big break.
Well, we've always believed that Brad Fittler was destined for greatness, and in these situations, it's when those kind of players stand up and be counted. The big left foot step, it just left players despairing. Matthew Ridge couldn't come up with the tackle. Kearney had no idea where Fittler had gone, and he scored under the post, which is fairly important as well. This has wrapped it up for the Aussies. They've done it tough.
Oh, champion, go you good thing, Freddie.
I think the word I was looking for, he has become so selective as to when he needs to run. And he keeps the opposition guessing. Brad Fittler has taken it upon himself to say, now is the time. My team and my country need me to run. And as I said, when he decides to, he normally goes in one side and comes out the other. This time he came out in the in goal with 4 points to probably send Australia to Wembley. Andrew Johns from in front will make it 30 points to 20. And so now the Kiwis, as game as they've been, will look forlornly at the scoreboard that says 10 points the margin one more time. This was Fittler. This was Fittler at his best. That big left step, and he just cut a swathe through them. But as I said, he catches, he passes, he kicks, and he selects when to run. Now, New Zealand. They've got off the floor once. Can they get off the floor again? 16-odd thousand here at McAlpine Stadium, Huddersfield. And the night skies are starting to descend on Huddersfield.
Oh, Jeff Tuvey again finds himself on his backside. Okasini charging again. There's Kearney up the middle of the ruck. Gaines finds Jeff Tuvey around his ankles. What a game he's had.
Tuvey is cramped up again. 5 minutes left to go in the match, and Australia lead by 10. You'd think it's enough to get home, wouldn't you? Iro around the back for his brother Kevin, and he puts in a kick. And I don't know that that was the play for the situation.
Oh, that's good stuff. That'll chew up the clock a bit. Australia doing it very hard. Tuvey's suffering from cramp. They're all suffering from cramp.
Yeah, I think they've got to get Kosef on there for one of the players. Probably Tuvey.
Referee holding up the scrum until Tuvey gets there. Kosef warming up. He'd love just a couple of minutes of the big match atmosphere.
You're just getting the feeling now that Jeff Tuvey can't go on in this game, physically can't go on. They've now got the right amount of players in the scrum, so it is fed. And Brett Dallas coming in off the blind side wing. Makes it 12 out. Tuvey finally to his feet. Coyne, great meters.
30 points to 20. It's Gary Larson, one of the warriors for this Australian team today. Now they go wide. The brothers Johns, they put it together, and Matthew has reached opposition territory with under 4 minutes of this one to go, the second semi-final of the World Cup. Jason Smith, 7 or 8 metres into New Zealand's territory. From Tuvey to Fittler, then Brasher. The pass look forward to Dimmick, and it's out for Coyne. He rolls it inside the 20-metre line. Ridge is there, met by Brasher. So Australia have got it on the right end of the park.
Again, the Australians coming up with some good defence. Can't put a man on the ground, Richie Blackmore. The New Zealanders throwing the ball around, trying to create a miracle. Matthew Ridge back inside. That's Ruben Wiki. The tackle's running out, and so too time.
Just over 2 minutes on the clock. And there'd be little time out in this second 10-minute stanza. Repeating at 20 all after 80 minutes. They turned around for another 20. It's New Zealand now with Blackmore towing it ahead. Brasher getting away from Blackmore, using Robbie O'Davis, and Robbie goes up the centre to be grabbed around the scruff of the neck by Blackmore. They've dealt out some punishment, Blackmore and Iro. Here's Nick Kosef now. On the halfway, playing it back to Menzies as Dimmick gushes some water down the throat. A tiring day, a draining day for all Australian supporters, because there's been some nerve-wracking moments here as Jason Smith passes for Nick Kosef, and Kosef wrapped up by Namu. 30 points to 20, and the referee has found a knock on. An incredible game. Australia led 10-0, and the match had hardly been born. And then they led by a big space, 20 points to 6, 14 in front they were. And the Kiwis came back. 20 points all, and so into extra time. Not being critical of Andrew Johns, he played marvellously, but 2 out of 6, that was the difference off the boot. While Ridge was potting them, Johns was missing them. O'Davis does some light stepping, and Robbie is tackled just outside the 20-metre line for Terry Hill. Coyne is with it. Matthew Johns now had the choice of outside or in, with Kosef trailing. 19 metres out. As the BBC's man of the match goes into the frame, it is Stephen Menzies. Coyne's pass comes off Tuvey and goes backwards. And Jeff Tuvey, he couldn't run after that football. He's down again, Jeff. He just can't move, the poor little fellow in the number 7. Kosef is with it now. Australia 10 points in front. The clock says it's over, and Australia will head for Wembley. Johns with a long ball. Then Coyne's pass goes to ground. The New Zealanders, through Stacey Jones, are making their way down the ground. They go out to the wing. Barnett steps away from Dallas, but is eventually pulled down by the Australians. 20 minutes gone on the clock, and that's been exhibited now for 30 seconds. They kick down the ground, and Henry Paul is after it with Brasher. Brasher guards the ball over the dead ball, so back to the 20, and I don't know that they'll have time for that. Daylight savings started, or should I say finished, here at midnight last night, and this northern city, Huddersfield, is pitch black out there. Couldn't have happened on a worse day. There's the siren. Australia are bound for the Twin Towers of Wembley. To defend the title they have won 4 times consecutively. They will play England at Wembley after a hair-raising experience here at McAlpine Stadium, Huddersfield today. Repeating after extra time, Australia have defeated New Zealand by 30 points to 20. We'll take a break, then we're back with Peter and Paul and our own version of Man of the Match. Here's a break, don't leave us.
3 from 8. The New Zealanders, Barnett, Tony Iro and Kevin Iro scored tries. Matthew Ridge kicked 4 from 5. The one he missed could have won the semi-final and seen the Kiwis go on to next week's game. A magnificent game of football. So many good players involved in this match. But the man that was our Kangaroo player of the match is now with Chris Bombolas.
Thanks, Sterlo. Well, our Winfield Kangaroo of the match is Jeff Turvey. Jeff, congratulations. $1,000 coming your way when we get back home, but what a match.
Yeah, it was extremely tough, and I tell you what, I wasn't looking forward to that extra time.
What about playing from dummy half? Did you enjoy that?
I tell you what, you can be mighty fit to play there. You know, all you seem to do is be chasing the ball around, but you know, it was something different and experience that you know, that I appreciate.
Jeff, you've obviously the boys are taxing. There's a lot of tired netties out here.
Yeah, you know, a lot of the boys were cramping up there towards the end. It was a very physical game, and you know, whilst we had a good lead there at partway through the match, I thought we let it slip away. Probably, you know, they picked up a gear, and full credit to them, they came back, and I suppose, you know, our extra spirit in the extra time shone through.
All throughout the week, the coach and officials were saying they are sleeping giants. So you were expecting a tough one, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they wanted to probably avenge their loss 3-0 in the Test series played in Australia earlier on in the year, and you know, as I said, full credit to them. They came back from, you know, probably a lead that we should have kept, and they played well.
Relax now, wind down a bit.
I think we'll have a good sleep tonight.
Right, Winfield man of the match, the Kangaroo of the match, Jeff Tuvey. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I think Jeff Tuvey deserves to sleep for a couple of days after that performance, Paulie. He just kept getting up off the ground. Like, we know what a valiant, gutsy player he is, but today was something even a little bit special from his performance, like, compared to what we've seen in the past.
Just a super game from him. He's one of the best competitors I've ever seen. His driving defence around the rucks was great, you know, playing in that role for Australia. He ran well from dummy half. I thought that move worked well from coach Bob Fulton, with Andrew Johns playing at halfback. An all-round great game, but most importantly showed a mile of courage, did Tubes.
Well, he did make the point as well that they had a match-winning lead that they should never have squandered. I suppose if there was a disappointment to come out of this game, it was the fact that they did have a lead big enough to hang on to and weren't able to.
I think, Pete, you've got to give some credit there to the New Zealand side. They really improved their play in the second half through the likes of Namu, Kevin Iro and Tony Iro, and they played very well. They got a bit of a hand from the referee, I felt. Some penalties went their way that possibly shouldn't have, and they did play well. And Matthew Ridge could have won it for them. What about that at 20 all, the goal? But luckily he missed.
Well, like you say in the commentary, if you could pick one person to have that kick, it would be Matthew Ridge. It wasn't a good attempt. Like, if he was going to miss, you'd expect Matthew Ridge to shave the post, but he missed by a long way. I said going into that extra time that if you did have to favour anybody, it was the New Zealanders, because they did have a bit of a roll on. But the one thing about the Australians, they didn't go into their shell. The try that Terry Hill scored, they scored it from a long way out, and they had confidence in each other to keep the ball alive. Well,
they found something, didn't they? When the chips were down, Australia really found something in that time zone and just came good. Lots of guts and courage. New Zealand faltered in that final 20 minutes, and Australia now go to Wembley next Saturday.
Yes, and one of their main strike players, as he has been for a while now, is Stephen Menzies. He's got 2 tries again this afternoon, and we now go to Steve in the dressing sheds.
On the road to Wembley, Steve Menzies, was a tough road, though.
Yeah, it certainly was. You know, they come back really well in the end, but it was good to get away with it.
What about being the leading try scorer? You got 6 now, obviously like one more?
Oh, for sure. Next week it'd be a big thrill, you know, to score at Wembley, so hopefully I'll be able to get one.
What was it about the Kiwis? You let them back into the game? You give credit to them for coming back?
Oh, no, they came back really well, you know. We split a couple of balls and they kept going forward all day, and they come back and then came back with a try.
Did you expect it to be this tough, to go into extra time, to have to get to Wembley?
Oh, I wasn't hoping for extra time, but we knew it was going to be a tough game, and we played 3 tests earlier in the year, and they were very tough then. So we expected a tough game, but extra time was a bit much.
What about England next week?
Well, hopefully... we played them in the first round, and they played pretty well then. We know how they play, and hopefully we'll be able to turn the tides this time.
Well, congratulations, and good luck next week.
Thank you.
Another tremendous performance from Stephen Menzies. He scored the second try today, and his second try was something that he'll remember for a long, long time. Covered a lot of metres, and to push off Sean Hoppy at the end there was the icing on the cake.
That was the thing, of course. He ran the 60 metres to get into that position. Hoppy's a fair defender, and he found something extra to put that fend out and brush him, and it was fantastic work by Menzies.
Yeah, we hope to see some of that next week at Wembley as well, because that's where the Australians are going. They've defeated New Zealand in the second semi-final in the World Cup, 30 points to 20. We'll take a break now and come back and wrap it up from Huddersfield. The Aussies victorious.